On this Memorial Day in downtown Knoxville, thousands of names you'll find engraved in stone, each one representing a life taken from Tennessee, lost on the battlefield. Building and maintaining that memorial takes the dedication and hard work of a lot of people. I sat down with two of them earlier today, and here's my conversation with former Marine Tim Eichhorn and UT professor John Romeiser. Dr. Romeiser, Tim Eichhorn, thank you both for being with us. We are taping this segment at 10:23 on Memorial Day. And as we tape this, names are being read in downtown Knoxville at the East Tennessee Veterans Memorial of the men and women who paid the ultimate sacrifice. I want to learn more about this beautiful memorial. We'll talk about what is happening today as our discussion continues, but let's talk about this memorial and the history of this place.
Okay.
Dr. Romeiser.
Well, the memorial has been around for almost 20 years now, and it continues to grow in terms of the number of names that are added. And those names are all read on Memorial Day, and they're being read right now. And that's around, I think, 6,333 names. And it's a loving gesture on the part of people who are not necessarily family members, or they represent a county that the person came from who died. And they really get feisty about it because they, I think there's some, I want to read his name. And also, we have a special ceremony right at the end for the three new names that have been added to, and that's it's just a great experience.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Tim, former Marine,
Yep.
decorated Marine. Why did you feel compelled to be involved? You're on the board.
Sure.
Why did you make that decision to serve again on this board?
Well, I left active duty right at the year 2000, right at the year 1995, and Beth and I moved our family here to East Tennessee. And then in 2003, so 8 years or so after leaving the Marine Corps, a buddy of mine was killed, who I'd served with in active duty. He was killed on their way into Baghdad in the initial phases of the Iraqi invasion. And that led Beth and I to do some soul searching, and that put me back in uniform with the local reserve unit here, a Delta Company of the 4th Combat Engineers. And then from there, went overseas again to Iraq. When I came back from that, I was very fortunate to be introduced to Wes Stowers. Wes was serving on the board, one of the initial members of the board. And he said, "Hey, you just came back. We need somebody. We need someone silly enough to go to war again, and we need someone young enough to carry the boxes." So I got asked to join ETVMA, East Tennessee Veterans Memorial Association. The memorial at that point in time was simply a blueprint. We had a chance to go meet Governor Bredesen, ask for some money there. Representative Duncan was a huge help. Mayor Ragsdale, Mayor Haslam, they all helped. And as you know, and as John mentioned, in November of 2008, we dedicated the memorial right around Veterans Day there in World's Fair Park, right next to the L&N station. And if you look at old pictures of the L&N, you'll see the train sightings. And that's what's so special about where that memorial is, Robin. It's sitting on the ground, particularly in World War I, World War II to some degree, Korea to some degree, and then most train travel had tapered out. But particularly in World War I, many of the names on that wall left Tennessee by stepping on trains right there. And that may have been the last time they saw or touched Tennessee soil. And it was just amazing.
I never knew that, but it put two and two together.
It's hallowed ground in our mind.
It is indeed hallowed ground. With
it was so appropriate for it to be there,
Absolutely. And 6,000 plus names. How is it determined the names that end up and are continually added to this memorial?
As I mentioned before, it's really love work. Finding the names, making sure the information on them is correct. We hear a lot from family members. We did at the outset. We also heard from the various counties, from the librarians in those counties who had that kind of information for us, and that really got us on our way. And now there aren't many left to add, but we're always shocked, when someone comes along and say, hey, why is that person not on there? I think one thing that perhaps is not well understood is that these are people who, through illness or through being killed in combat, who died during these wars. And we hate to box out people that, my dad served in the war, and but he died about maybe 1975. I said, but that's not what we're there for. And what I do allow them to do is, if they want to put a bio of their family member on the website, we do that. But their names are not put on the memorial.
Let's talk about another passion project of yours, and it's this book. Tell us what prompted you to bring this to life.
Well, it just made sense. I mean, we have this amazing memorial, and we have done all this research, and why not have another testimony to them with the book? And
so a lot of the names the names are pulled from the memorial,
exactly,
and delves into their stories.
Yes, exactly. And I did that mainly, and Nick helped me with that as well. My friend Nick, who has since left us. And we decided different topics that we want to do. We didn't want to do a chronicle kind of the war, like saying, well, let's do, going to do World War I, then World War II, then we're going to do Korea. No, we chose themes, individual themes that tied them together, like war in the Pacific, war in Europe, the bombings in Europe, and they all seem to sort of fit together. Even there was a chapter that I'm kind of proud of that I did that was about the what happened to the bodies that were left in Europe and were buried there, and for those that were brought back, World War I, World War II, and Korea as well. What were the protocols for that? And I had correspondence from family members, and so that was in that particular one. It was a tough one to write, but it was important to do.
Absolutely.
The memorial served as a backdrop in 2015 to that chapter that John's referring to in the book. In 2015, we see the name Bonnyman, Sandy Bonnyman around town. In 2015, his grandson and the history flight, those folks were on the island at Tarawa, and they repatriated a number of Marines and sailors who were killed and were buried, and then, frankly, their grave sites were just lost to time. And Lieutenant Bonnyman was brought back to Knoxville. There at the memorial, we welcomed him home. And then the next morning, he was reinterred up on there at the cemetery with a Commandant of the Marine Corps and a detachment from the 8th and I Silent Drill Team. It was just a very fitting. John writes about those folks, but just a very fitting way to honor those folks who have given the ultimate sacrifice. And we were able to stay through a team, like John keeps pointing to. They were brought home.
These are East Tennessee heroes.
Yep.
East Tennessee heroes. And to bring it back to today, this Memorial Day, as we mentioned, the names of the men and women being read, but also names added and dedicated this year. And one in particular, Roddy Edmonds.
Yes.
Share the story of Roddy Edmonds.
It's a great story, and it was a long, drawn-out story to get his Medal of Honor approved. And people here locally and people, I think, around the country.
John Cotton, Senator Cotton from Kansas.
Oh, well, okay.
Yeah. Yes, and that is very unique. And when I tell that story to people, they say, he really did that to this Nazi?
Yeah, and explain what did he
Yes.
do?
So it's a young 24-year-old who's a master sergeant in the Army at that point. So he's climbed through the ranks quickly.
What
And
year would this be?
This was January of 45, so about 4.5 months or so prior to the end of the war in Europe. And he and roughly, I believe it was 800 other prisoners of war, EPWs, were in this Stalag 9A. The commandant called for all the Jewish prisoners to be brought forward. He wanted them all to be out in formation by themselves. And Master Sergeant Edmonds passed forward. He was at 24. He was a senior soldier on deck in this camp, and he ordered everybody, hey, here's what we're going to do. We're all going to go out. And then when the commandant was fit to be tied in frustration, that they all came out in formation. I want all the Jews to come forward, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, because I'll never get it right. But
Sure.
Master Sergeant Edmonds' response was, "We're all Jews," and
What a stand.
What a stand! Yeah,
What a statement.
Think about the moral compass that took him to that moment, and that he could rely on it in that pressure. And I would assume it was a Luger pistol, but it was a pistol that was placed between his eyes, the barrel which was placed between his eyes, and you correct yourself now, or I will shoot you. And he said, you don't want to do that, Commandant. If you do that, you'll be subject to war crimes, and that's where it ended in frustration for the Germans.
His name being added because there's a special section for Medal of Honor recipients.
Right. So if you approach the memorial with your back to the setting sun towards Fort Kidd, towards the Art Museum, and you come into the memorial itself,
You'll see them.
You'll see the names of 6,300 from World War I all the way back to Iraqi freedom and other peacetime conflicts.
Right.
They're in the far back. But as you enter, and it's chapel-like going in there, it really is an amazing. There are kneelers or benches to sit on to stare at the names, to contemplate. But as you turn around and come back out, you'll see the names of the 16 East Tennessee Medal of Honor recipients, their dates of action, their location, their units, everybody from, as I mentioned, Sandy Bonnyman to Alvin York, to Sergeant Coolidge, to now Master Sergeant Edmonds. And on July 16th of this year, it's a Thursday, at 10 a.m., we'll have an unveiling ceremony for that stone. And Master Sergeant Edmonds' family will be there, as well as Chris Edmonds, his son, who does much of the speaking for Master Sergeant Edmonds. He will have his family, and he will have several members of the Jewish faith who know the story well, and celebrate it with Chris and his family.
That's going to be so incredibly special.
Isn't it close to the remembrance of the Jewish woman?
It is.
Yes.
The Holocaust statement.
Holocaust,
yes. It's as close to the Holocaust statement steel as we could make it, yes.
I tell you, the thought process that has gone into this memorial, and if you have not been, please take the time to go, because it is incredibly moving.
Yeah.
On this day in particular, but every day. These are the men and women who said, I'm going to do something bigger than myself. And they paid the ultimate sacrifice. Go ahead.
I just want to say one thing about East Tennessee. I grew up, spent most of my life in Tennessee, a little bit in South Carolina, in Tennessee. I grew up in Memphis. Went to graduate school in Nashville at Vanderbilt, and found myself here to work at UT. And I just, there's a certain feeling of togetherness and closeness that you find in this part of the state that has blown me away. And I don't see, not that Memphis shouldn't do the same thing, or Nashville, but nobody's doing it. We did it. And I think it's because of that closeness.
Absolutely.
It makes this place so wonderful.
I could not agree more. So many stories. Roddy Edmonds. Another story that we want to tell, that you want to tell, that of William Bushong. What is his story?
He was a, we have cities that have lots of names for the memorial. Chattanooga is one. Chattanooga and Knoxville tend to vie in terms of how many names. This is somebody who is it's in your viewing area, and just from a little kind of country town. I don't think they would like for me to say that, but Morristown, which is what 20, 25 miles
definitely
from here.
Not far.
And a young man who grew up there and with his family, his two sisters. I think they came maybe from some money. I can tell by the photographs that go along with them. And he ended up in World War I in the Argonne Forest. He was a lieutenant, and he was there during some very difficult times. Not only the fighting, like there were actual planes, strafing there, and there was poison gas. And he wrote in a letter that his mother received later, after he was gone, that he said, "With the poison gas, it's too late when you smell it."
Yeah.
And it was just horrible, the conditions and what they went through. And so I just thought that his story was from a little town, and he ended up getting married in New York City to, I don't know, maybe a socialite, but it's just a fascinating little story of just one person.
One person, and there's thousands of stories on this memorial that are just as compelling and just as important. Tim, talk about the memorial. This is, while it is standing, it is there, it does take time and money to continue to have this be a place to memorialize people.
It does, and John's being modest. Bill Felton, Colonel Bill Felton, here in town, he had the idea, standing on Normandy, that this memorial needed to happen. And then the West Towers, the Mike Crawfords, Mike Millers, Lieutenant General Taboo, and Joe Alexander. I'm leaving a number of names out, and it's not intentional. They came along and they really did the heavy lifting, right? Lee Ingram from Ingram Fuller,
architect.
Our architect. And we still go to Lee and say, "Lee, we need to add these names. Will you please do the script? Will you do the font to make sure we get it right?"
He's so devoted.
Lee's phenomenal. But John is too modest in that there's the dream, there's the actual work and the workhorses that got it done, and then there was John, who behind the scenes, the 6,100 names that started us out, then the 6,200 names in 2013, now over 6,300 names. His work, along with Cynthia Tinker and so many more, to get us where we've gotten with these to be able to memorialize these people. Yeah. And now, as you said, Robin, we have a garden of stone, if you would. Again, it's chapel-like, but it does take money, and we do raise funds. We take general gifts, and they're coming in from family members on a fairly regular basis. This is a time of the year that we see some spike in that. But we also have in May we have what we call the Medal of Honor evening. All right, and so. As a matter of fact, this coming year, we will be memorializing and honoring Master Sergeant Edmonds at that bank. We'll have 400 people at the hotel in the ballroom, and there's a price of admission, if you will, a ticket charge, but there's corporate sponsorship. So we do a lot of fundraising at that event because the engraving does cost money. The memorial is lit all through the night. It does not go dark. True. And so we have an electricity bill, we have a water bill, we have a gardening, if you will, or a landscaping bill. It takes us about $45,000 or so a year to keep that memorial as pristine as we want it, as it deserves to be.
Sure.
Did we ever get the bell to ring?
Bell does ring.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it was one of those things. If you can go back to 2008, we had a remote control clacker, which everybody thought that's awesome. But of course, cell phone networks and different things have changed through the years, so we had to go back and. Little things like that to go back in. Little things like that are $8,000 to fix a bell, right?
So if someone is listening
Yes.
and they feel so compelled to support,
etvma.org, etvma.org. And you can learn about the memorial. You can learn about the names. As John said, he's constantly curating the website and bringing it up to speed. But there's also a place that's very prominent that says donate. And there is an opportunity there, and everyone is needed to help.
yeah, these names are more than names.
They are more
as
than
we
names.
keep
Their
talking
stories,
about in
their
this.
families.
Yes,
It's amazing.
it is. I could keep going on, but I want to be respectful of your time. But I'm going to ask this last question to both of you. How best can we honor today and every day the men and women who did make a decision to do something bigger than themselves and then paid the ultimate sacrifice?
Wow. There are, depending on what part of town you live in, I live over in Rocky Hill. There's a veteran cemetery near us. I remember when the first stone went in, and just going to one of these cemeteries and looking at the names and in reverence. It would be one way. You can plant flags, and you can take flags away. Most people don't want to put them in, but they don't want to come. That's one way. I mean, just being involved in the history of this country and the different conflicts we've been in. Some, better than others. But just realizing that the people that actually went into service and paid that price, it was a job to them, and it took their life, and it impacted their families forever, and it was a great sacrifice.
I believe it was during John's tenure as president that we came up with a simple mission statement. It was to honor, to inspire, to remember, and to educate.
Good.
And if you think about that, just today is a day we honor those names, and that can happen any time. But if I just move to the end to educate, right?
Yeah, very important.
Just stop and talk with a youngster, talk with a young person, let them know what it means, and just through that it'll inspire them, and it'll be remembered.
Just a little add on to that. I think, Tim, you've talked about it before, and I've heard other people say, well, when you go to Europe, all those cemeteries are so well taken care of, and then the local people, the French, the Dutch, Germans, for their cemeteries, they go and honor those names of the people that saved them from slavery, and we don't have that mentality here. We don't. We were the big ocean that had between the ocean and Europe, but it is something that I think is very meaningful that they can do that. And I think people who go to Europe and see Dutch people, French people, laying a wreath or something like that, they get a new sense maybe of their own patriotism and what they should be thinking about.
Gentlemen, thank you both so
Robin.
much. Thank you for sharing stories, your insight, and thank you for your service.
Have a wonderful Memorial Day.
You as well. Thank you.